So welcome everyone to this masterclass on international recruiting organized by the European Champions Alliance. I will give you some short introduction just about who we are at the European Champions Alliance, why we're doing this masterclass today, and also some technical details. So first, maybe for the technical details, please, if you, so we are recording this session that we can also host it on YouTube later on. So if ever you ask a question, it is possible that it will be on YouTube. So just for you to let you know. We encourage you to ask questions even during the presentation. So please do not hesitate to ask everything that you would like to know to our two presenters and guests today, Nicolas and Tomas. And yes, so the European Champions Alliance, just to give you a short introduction, is a non-for-profit organization that we have founded in February 2020. And our goal is to support young, or not so young, but innovative companies in Europe to grow. We have a very operational business development, marketing, and also operations focus. So we do very little, almost none of lobbying activity. But what is really important for us is to help companies to expand across borders in Europe and also to foster cooperation between small corporations, larger corporations, between corporates and startups, and, you know, in all of the senses, and especially in Europe. So this is something that is very important to us. And we are hosting masterclasses very regularly on different topics. And today we're going to talk about recruitment, because we know it's something that is very important for many companies. And it's something that we need to talk about, because recruitment is a very crucial point of the development of a company. And so we have two specialists today who can tell us about international recruitment, because they will present themselves, but they have a very international and also intercultural experience that they can share with us. And the recruitment part is really important. So without further ado, I would like to give the word to Nicolas and Tomas, who will present themselves and also give us their insight about international recruitment. And again, if you have any questions, you can ask them in the chat and we can pick them up and ask them on your behalf, or you can maybe raise your hand if you have a question, and then we can unmute, or we can wait after the presentation to really go into your questions if you have any. So thank you very much. If you want to put on your camera, please feel free. And if you don't speak, please stay on mute. So Nicolas, Tomas, thank you very much for taking the time. And we're looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you very much, Andrea, for your welcome words. Thank you for European Champions Alliance to welcome us today. This presentation is done by the ERI Executive Search. ERI Executive Search is a network of different recruitment agencies in the world. And today are represented the French one and the German one. So I will let my colleagues, Tomas, introduce himself. So Tomas will co-host and co-animate this presentation this evening with me. About the time, so I think we'll try to do it in half an hour. Feel absolutely free to interrupt us if you have any kind of question. And of course, we'll try to do it in 1 hour, because I think we have an important game at 6 o'clock this evening, which will be the last chance to have Germany, or to have one of the two countries still on board for the EM. Tomas, your word.
Okay, thank you. Yes, hello everybody. I'm Tomas. I'm Swedish, living in France. I have a background of entrepreneur. I've been doing quite many things. I've started a restaurant. I've started an innovation agency, internet company. So I know what not to do in terms of recruitment, which is a challenge. And now I'm at Lincoln. Lincoln is a talent management company, a French one, with about 150 people. We are present in Europe with offices in France, Belgium, and Poland, but also in Asia. Talent management company, meaning we follow talents all through their careers but also one of our main services is executive search.
Thank you, Thomas. So my name is Nicolas Vermersch. I'm really happy to be there today. So I'm a French guy, French engineer. I start my career in the automotive industry in France. And after 9 years, I, per coincidence, moved to recruitment business, so engineering and manufacturing business. I was a managing director of well-known Michael Page in France, and I spent 3 years in the Netherlands and 2 years in Germany. And since 2016, I'm leading, or I had the chance to lead with my colleagues Mr. Merkel, 3C. 3C, it's an established boutique executive search in Munich, Germany. 15 people, mainly focused on executive search in the DACH region, so Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. On 4 practices: the software business, consumer FMCG business, the professional services business, and the engineering manufacturing business. So happy to be there this evening. So the battle of talent, I don't know who is present this evening, but for sure, this presentation, this masterclass is dedicated to startup and scale-up who are looking to extend their business, or in Germany for the French one, or in France for the German one. And I think it's a surprise for nobody that the main issue of expanding, it's not about technology, it's about finding the right people and retaining the right people. So what we so-called acquiring and retaining talents. So this is a battle. This battle will continue in the next coming 20 years. We just see the beginning of it.
Yeah, so as you say, Nicolas, talent acquisition is really the key issue. Today, starting a company, finding the structure, doing the legal things, that is not as complicated as before. But now the talent is really in the middle of this battle, and you need to find the right one. Yeah. Before, we had a market where the recruiter was the one who was deciding more, but today you really have to position yourself. You have to sell your company. You have to pitch. It's not only for the talents to pitch anymore. And we are really in a situation, especially now, the market has started again really very strong. And we see it's extremely important to sell your company. So the talents are also demanding, of course, they are looking at the position, they are looking at the salary. But today, and we see that more even with the younger generation, I mean, the balance between the private and the professional life is extremely important. The company culture, we see also, I mean, some of the talents, they ask us, okay, about the company culture, but the benefits, what about how do you organize things between the personnel? And also what's very interesting, especially in France, where we were a little bit more traditional, I mean, today, many people say, I want to work partly remote. The big question is, will this last? But today it's a real issue, and people are demanding that. So another thing is, I don't know if you've seen, but McKinsey says that today we're talking about having 4 or 5 careers. Before we started in a company, and especially in engineer cultures, we started in a company and stayed there the whole life, more or less. Today, you have much more volatility, and people, it's not that they are not loyal to their colleagues, but they are not loyal to the company like they were before. So it's extremely important not only to get the right talent, but also how do you keep the talent in the company? They can be demanding in terms of getting coaching, getting formation, how do they say formation in English? Trainings to learn more different things. So you have to really retain the good talents.
speaking about talents and talent acquisition means also that you need to know where are your markets. And for both countries, quite important to, first of all, know where you will set up your implementation, because of course, if you decide in Germany to locate in Berlin, you will probably not find the same kind of persons, the same kind of salaries, than if you located in Munich. Okay, so let's show you a bit what are the main difference between the two countries. So first of all, if you look at the population, and we all know that, so Germany, 83 million inhabitants, in France, 67. Active workers in Germany, not double, but you have 20 or 15 million more active workers in Germany compared to France. And of course, what it's about Germany, it's not a centralized republic country. Germany, it's all about these 16 Länders, and living in Berlin doesn't mean living in Stuttgart. So it's quite really important to know exactly where do you located and which kind of candidate pool you want to address. Meaning that if you are a startup dedicated to the B2C business, you will probably better relocated to Berlin, okay? Of course, for French people, Berlin is a place to launch startup, but most of the Berlin startup as B2C startup. And in Munich, you have a lot of B2B ones. So Munich is the country in Germany where you have, we say that Munich is a bit the Silicon Valley of Germany. So Microsoft are there, Google are there, Salesforce are there, Oracle, Adobe. And you have a lot of SaaS startup in Germany. So if you want to address the SaaS market, I would really recommend you to establish your business in Munich. You have also some unicorns like Celonis, data mining unicorn, Personio, HR software unicorn, Lilium, flying taxi unicorn. So you have to be aware about the German market before choosing for a location, and before also choosing to recruit the person at the right location. Hamburg, it's more a place where you have a lot of major companies. Düsseldorf is well known for commerce, retail. We have the metro headquarters in Düsseldorf. Düsseldorf is big advantage of Düsseldorf. I'm saying that to my French clients is that, of course, it's not so far from Paris. I think with the TGV, you have 3 hours, so it could be an advantage, but you don't address the same kind of candidate and the same kind of companies. Frankfurt is the place of the banks. You have the European Central Bank based in Frankfurt, and all the German bank headquarters or some European bank headquarters are based in Frankfurt. Last but not least, Stuttgart, which is less well known for scale-up and startup, but Stuttgart and Baden-Württemberg is a strong lander where you have the headquarters of Mercedes, where you have the headquarters of Bosch, who is the biggest automotive supplier in the world. So you have to be aware about all these differences before launching a business in Germany. And what's about France?
I would say that in France, it's very different. I mean, it has been much more centralized with everything built around Paris, even the infrastructure. I mean, everything goes and starts from Paris. Before you had industry, so if you were in aeronautics, you were in Toulouse in southern France. If you were in electronics, you were in Grenoble near Lyon. But today, the startups, you don't have the same the same thinking. I mean, you will be mostly, unless you are linked strongly to an industry, you will look at where are the talents and where is the market. And if you look at the map here, you see that the concentration of this is really the concentration of startups in 2019. So you still have Paris, Ile-de-France that is strong. but also Rhône with Lyon, Grenoble coming as #2. But otherwise, it is getting more and more spread around the country. So yes, decisions are made in Paris. That's true. For example, the investors are mostly in Paris, but in terms of talents, in terms of startups, not only. What's very interesting and what we have seen during the last years, and it's a little bit a new phenomena, is an explosion of the startup world in France, but also of the funding. We had a lot of startups starting, I would say about 10 years ago, slowly but surely, but now it's a growth that is tremendous. And we are not talking about financing as a seed, Series A, we have Series B, Series C, raising up to 500 million euros. So if you look at the figures, I think we can be proud that we are second position with Germany. Okay, far behind UK, who is at 15 billion euros in capital raised in 2020. But we have a good position today, and only during the 5 first months in 2021, 4 billion euros raised. So it's really something is happening today. And this is very important for the talent market also. So we have gone from 6 to 16, because only since I wrote this, it has changed, but 6 to 16 unicorns in 2 years. And what is interesting with that is not, bragging about unicorns, but unicorns are the startups that really take the international expansion phase. And for French startups, I mean, Germany is one of the first markets often that we look at.
Of course, speaking about country market, it's really important in recruitment, in international development, to speak about culture and business behaviors. So maybe speaking about Germany, we all know the typical German cliché, which are still right. We like in Germany clean garden, we like discipline, we like when things are properly done, sometimes maybe too much, and we also like rules which are clearly defined. So we have to be, and you have to be as a French company, aware about that. But we have the pleasure to be able to drive quite fast, which is, of course, a lux in the automotive country. Speaking about the German business behavior, so you have to be aware that, of course, when you will try to set up a business in Germany, when we will try to recruit people in Germany, most of German candidates are, compared to French candidates, quite risk averse, meaning that if you start to speak about or to give the word startup, I'm not sure that it's always the right approach, because of course German candidates they like security more than just about salary. Be aware that the try and buy culture, instead of the buy and try culture of the German, we have in Germany an engineering approach. So we like when things are explained, clear. Trust is a key word in Germany, meaning that if you say to a candidate, I will call you back, please call back. If you say to a candidate, you will receive a presentation from us, do it. The same in the business, but these fundamentals, German fundamentals of trust and commercial ethics are really key fundamentals that you have to work on. And I can tell you, I've been a French recruiter, you have some difference, and you have to really take care of that. German market, if you want to establish a business in Germany, be aware that this has to be for a long run. I'm always giving the example of a well-known French brand, which is Longchamp, the luxury bags. I know the guy who launched Longchamp in Germany, he told me, Nicolas, in the first 2 years, I didn't sold any bags. And I had my boss each week on the phone who was saying, but probably we did a mistake in Germany. It's taking time in Germany to launch a business. It's taking time in Germany to convince candidates. And you have to be aware about that, and you have to plan that in your business plan. It's of course a must to have a German-speaking team in place. So don't make the mistake of still sometimes some company are thinking that just by speaking English, you can do business in Germany. You cannot. This is about Germany. And what's about France?
French is a country of luxury products. I mean, we have a lot of luxury products, and I'm very proud of that. We also like big projects. I mean, the TGV is a very good example for that. And big projects meaning that you invest a lot in and takes time, but also very French. The government is a part of the stake, so they intervene in different ways. We can discuss that later if you want. Of course, the culture, everybody knows the good parts of the French culture with pleasure bars, baguette wine. And also, this is very, very important point is we call it barbecue in France. It's I had a board meeting with the managing directors of the Swedish big companies in France, and they all talked about the barbecue. That means when you have a strike in France, they put fire in front of the fabric, in front of the office, and it looks internationally as a total chaos. They are burning down the place, but it's not that. I mean, the bosses, they call that a barbecue. So it's a way of making strikes. I mean, they like to show very strongly that they are not happy. And also what is quite interesting in France, I don't know if you remember Minitel, but Minitel was, I would say, very revolutionary before internet. But due to the huge investments, I mean, France was very late on the acceptance of internet because they had nearly to make a return on investment on Minitel. So you have this dual thing in France between very engineer oriented as Germany. So French people really like to develop new things, new products, but it can be also very slow in the transition. So one thing that we can say in France is French talents from Grande École and even the young generation, they travel a lot and they speak English. So this prejudice that French people don't speak English, I would say in business, that is less true today. Even if the older generation, it can be a challenge because of proudness. But anyhow, if you want to take a strong local position in France, I mean, you have to recruit French-speaking people, talents. And that's the same in all countries, apart from the small ones of Sweden and Netherlands, perhaps, where you can recruit people that only speak English. But the first one, they have to speak French. Also, one thing that is very important is France is quite hierarchical. So it's important when you try to come into a company, don't try to get in too low. I mean, when I say here, go to the top decision maker, that is for your purpose. Don't be satisfied with going to the same level as you, perhaps. Take the one who will take the real decisions, and that's important. Otherwise, it can be hard to come back. And also, we hear a lot, it's complicated to set up a structure, all the legal aspects. No, get the right support, and it's easy and it's quick today. Many things have happened on that front. And also, French people are, we say Cartesian, that means they like a logical structure. So when you're presenting a service, a product, try really to adopt a logical structure in your approach. That is appreciated. And I think it's quite important point. Otherwise, you have to know that in France, to be critical is a culture. I mean, it's nearly an intellectual goal at a dinner. It's not, it will never happen that everybody is okay and agrees on things. You have to not agree in order to create a discussion. So when you come and you make business, if you present something and you have a critical approach, don't see that as something negative. It can be even very positive and a good sign. So you have to know that French people have this critical attitude, and critical not meaning negative. And also, this is something to have in mind. The trust index, there is an international trust index on 100. In France, it's 27. In Sweden, for example, it's 62. And this is purely cultural. That means that in France, you don't trust the government, you don't trust people that you meet like this. I mean, in Sweden, I meet somebody, I trust him before the contrary is proved. So it's only something that you have to keep in mind. You have to gain trust, and this is purely cultural. Also, we always hear that French people are late. I mean, this is not true anymore. In my experience, I mean, it is more or less as everywhere. I mean, people, if it's in a big town and things happen, of course you can be late, but you are at time. And also, this is quite important part, sales. I mean, in the US, sales is very positive. You often say that if you take a French engineer and an American salesperson, that's a perfect mix. And in France, I mean, it's not seen as something very positive, sales. So when you're recruiting, really test the persons on those aspects, because you find people who love sales, business development, but you have to know that it's not as valued as it is in some other countries. So very important in recruiting. Also, the French culture can be more formal than in Northern Europe. In Northern Europe, everybody says tu. I mean, okay, in English you have only you, but it's much more formal in France. And I think even in the written French, you try to be formal, try to answer mails, try to do it by written and make it formal. Less formal than before, of course, but it is still formal compared to other countries. And also in France, for example, if you talk a manager to a manager in UK, don't go into details. I mean, they want the big picture, more synthetic approach. But in France, I mean, yes, details are important. So a good mix of presenting detail, or especially being able to enter into details when you present, and taking a synthetic approach can be important. And don't forget that meetings, I mean, meetings are not always to take decision. I mean, meeting can be to discuss issues, and that is okay in the French culture. So also, if you come from Germany and want to launch something in France, France is not a country of early adopters. And why? That has to do with the trust, with a critical attitude. I mean, you have to have tested your service, your products before you launch on a market like France. They are not early adopters in general.
Thank you, Thomas. If you try to find the mirror of what you just said about France, you have some similarities, but you have also some big difference. So as I said you before, German market is a long-term market. And as you say, Thomas, French are not early adopters, but I think German are really not early adopters, meaning that they will make sure that your business is working before adopting it. don't be really disturbed by the really direct communication of Germans. This is part of our culture, and we are used of that. Be well prepared, so please don't try to make any approximation. We had recently a French client wanted to set up a business in Germany, and the website was really translate from not really professional. So don't do these kind of things. Better to start later, but do it really professionally. I always remember what Ferdinand Piëch is a founder of Porsche. He said, in Germany, if you want to do business, do it properly and do it with quality. And you don't have to do it quickly, you have to do it with quality, which is really a key. In case of conflict, use open communication. So be really open, say things directly. Don't be afraid to say things really directly. And of course, a cold communication as first contact never means a no. Okay, please don't be surprised by quite a cold communication, especially for people coming from the north of Germany. They can be quite cold. If we speak about recruitment, I don't know, Andrea, do you want to have a short break or a Q&A session, or shall we continue right now?
I mean, I have some questions, but they can wait for the end. So maybe let's take the questions when you're finished.
Fine. Okay. So,
Yeah.
Thomas, your turn.
No, and as I said before, and I say it again, at least the first recruitments, I mean, you have to have French-speaking people. Act local, be local, and give the full service as a French competitor. I mean, that's essential. Grandes Écoles, it's interesting. Grandes Écoles, it's all the nice engineering and business schools, and you have this culture in France. So many companies still want to recruit people that come from les Grandes Écoles. And also, there is a kind of supportive spirit between alumni. So that means that if you are, for example, from HEC, you will feel quite safe recruiting people from HEC. And also, if you come and sell, I mean, it opens doors a little bit more easy. So you still have this culture. Everybody won't perhaps not agree on this one, but for me, it has been quite important that don't give a too prestigious title role, and you don't need that on the business card. I mean, I would say talk about a kickstart manager, talk about a business development manager when you make the first recruitment. Don't take a managing director directly, because a person that has a nice title can have sometimes a little bit the attitude of not wanting to put the hands in the real work at the same way. So try the first person as a business development manager, perhaps, and that person can grow into a managing director. Also, and we said that before, it's very important, but remote work is going to, or has been now, a real issue in terms of recruitments. And I see it quite often. I mean, people saying, okay, what is the remote working culture? Can we work remote 1 day, 2 days? 3 days. I even have people that say, I want to work fully remote. Well, okay, but then, I mean, you have to choose a special types of companies for that. But will that last? But it's something that happens now.
About Germany, I've been working in France 10 years and working now since 2013 in Germany. Maybe Thomas will not agree with me, but I can really tell you that finding the right candidates in Germany is harder than France. And speaking about statistics, I'm always saying that average to find a candidate in France, you need to call 100. In Germany, you are most of the time speaking about 200 candidates to be able to convince and to have a short list of candidates on board. Thomas spoke about that. The new French generation, business generation, is really speaking a good English, which is not the case of the, let's say, 50 years old French person. Most of the time, German are really speaking good English. So be aware as a French company, don't be just attract, because I saw that sometimes that French clients were really positively begeistert, attracted by a candidate who was really speaking English. Good English doesn't mean a good personality or a good candidate. Please be aware that, of course, the two countries are neighbors countries. You have some cultural differences, and I really advise everybody to not neglect this difference, the cultural differences. Recruit at the right salary. So, I mean, the salary, the average salary in Berlin is not the same as the average salary in Munich. And as said before, Munich is the place of software company, and the average salary in Munich are really high. Don't make the mistake to recruit low-level candidate without being unrespectful. I'm always saying that buy monkeys and you will get peanuts. But please be aware in your business plans about the salary level of the candidate you have to attract. The salary level in Germany can be quite high, depending on the branch you are working for. As said also before, you don't have any grande école culture in Germany, so don't expect to find this kind of culture. It doesn't exist. I think one of the strengths of Germany in the industry is that you have a lot of engineers or a lot of person on management level, people who start their career with Ausbildung, so apprentissage. You can find great person without having a master or without having a grande école, and please be aware about that. And last but not least, make sure that your candidate will be able to work in a French company culture. I'm used to work for international company, and I'm used also to say sometimes Germans are surprised that the French have 20 IDs per day. They are not always able to set up a good ID. On the contrary, the Germans have not so much ID, but they are really strong in setting up company. Be aware, just maybe invite your candidate in your office. You can spend 2 time, but please make sure that he's able to work in a French company culture. And last but not least, and this is not just about Germany, don't make any compromise. In case of doubt, no doubt, don't recruit the person. Last but not least, first woman on the ground. So if you start to launch your business in Germany or in France, the key person is the first person who will lead the business. And as Thomas said, it has not to be called managing director, but this person is the key person, and spend the right time, spend the right money, the right investment on this person will make your business successful or not. And when we see that some companies are not successful, is because they neglect this part, which is key. So this was it about recruitment and cultural differences. We propose a last chapter, or last presentation about choosing the right recruitment partner. So I don't know again who is the audience in the room, but if you have to launch a business or in France or in Germany, you will have probably for the first people to use a recruitment agency, an executive search firm. You can try to do it yourself, but it will be a bit lottery. You will probably, it will take maybe time. You will maybe recruit the wrong person. So, and of course, this is our role to tell you that you will have probably to think about using a recruitment agency. Why is that, Thomas?
Yeah. Okay. Why? First of all, when you are a startup and even growing as a scale-up, you have limited human resource capability. You seldom have an HR director even. And also, I mean, it is important to use a search company, especially if it is a niche role, if it is a role that is a little bit more difficult and where you need to have a partner that knows the market and that has a network to go and pick in, so that it's not only working with LinkedIn or other tools. Also, so really, when you are in a situation that you have a person that is a little bit hard to find, look at going with a partner, executive search. Of course, I would say if it's looking at data specialist engineers or a special kind of persons, you have specialized companies. If you look, for example, recruiting business developers and things like that, you have to check. You have to check that your partner needs or has the capability. But that's when you will need at least to work with a partner.
The question is now to know, okay, how to decide or how to choose the best firm to support you on your recruitment. I would say that there's different criteria I wrote here. Of course, it depends on the stage of your business. If you are 10 people startup, you are not, of course, able to spend the same kind of money than if you are a unicorn with setting up in Germany. So it depends on that. But I would recommend anyway to work with a boutique executive search who are working with a flexible recruitment fee. And speaking about seniority of the role, of course, you don't recruit a managing director of a business who can be a 10 million euro business or 500 million euro business. So you have to choose about that. Speaking about also the repeatability of the roles, I mean, we said before, using an executive search company, it's probably most of the time needed when you need to look for specific roles. As soon as you start to have repeat roles, then you can think about, okay, recruiting a talent acquisition manager who will be in charge of recruit or taking care about all these repeat roles, which will be, of course, not so expensive as a classical executive firm. Be also aware when you have to choose about an executive company that the consultant you are speaking with have the right network in the relevant industry, meaning that we have also a pace in the recruitment industry. We are so fast that if the person didn't recruit the same kind of profile in the last 2 years, it will probably be difficult for him to be as quick as you would like. Be also sure or ensure yourself that your partner have an experience in the startup or the tech world. We all know that a founder of a startup has probably more expectations than a corporate person is quite more demanding. He is working a lot. This is his company. He's not used to work with a recruitment agency. He's probably more chaotic. He's not used to maybe make or write a job description. So the approach, you have to make sure if you choose a recruitment agency that they are used to work with startup or scale-up. Speaking about full contingency versus retained, so you probably know this difference. I mean, you can expect in an Anglo-Saxon world that you contract with a recruitment agency on a no cure, no pay, meaning that you will not pay any fee until the candidate didn't sign his contract. Be aware that if you work like that, of course, you will not have any commitment from the executive search company or for the recruitment partner. And what I'm always saying that it's maybe better to get a small retainer to get commitment from the recruitment agency. Then for sure you will get their energy, their focus on your recruitment. Also working with a full contingency company, meaning that they will send you quantity versus quality. And it's also sometimes you have to take in mind, meaning that if you have to spend time to meet or to interview 20 people, you have to take that into account. Last also, but not least, how much does my agency or does the company I met want this job? Meaning that if the company is not, for example, ready to share a benchmark profile before starting to work together, which is not really a good sign of their capability, of their motivation to work for your company. How responsive are they? Do they respond to your email? Are they reachable? If a consultant is not easy to reach before you start to work with him, you can imagine that after establishing a contract, it will be really difficult to reach. So these tips are a few tips which can be really useful when you have to choose a recruitment agency. Reputation is also key. So you have now in France Les Echos, or in Germany in Focus, you have some reputation or ranking of recruitment agency, which are done via candidates, which are done via clients. We give a good idea about the most well-known and serious professional recruitment agencies. This is it for this presentation for the moment. I have a few best practice here, but we can maybe share that after if you want, Andrea, because I see that we are already 20 after 5, so feel free to interrupt us.
Yes, so thank you very much, first of all, Nicolas and Thomas. I think it was really a very good summary and overview of the challenges and best practices on, intercultural topics and also on recruitment. And I think very many questions have already been answered. If anyone from the audience has a question, he can either raise his hand or unmute himself now to ask the questions that you have, as we say in German, on your heart. If not, I would have some, but first of all, does anyone have a question here? Then please just speak up. Okay, so let me maybe start. I have a question, which is always something that I discuss very much also with the startups, is when is the best moment to recruit the first person on the ground? Because we know that, or from my experience, I know that it's quite difficult to recruit a top-notch, high-flyer person in Germany for a French startup that no one knows in Germany and that doesn't have any brand recognition. And so my question would be, when is the best moment to search for this first person? And how do you go about it? So how do you prepare this recruitment so that people are really excited about joining a French startup that no one knows in Germany yet? So how do you, how do you balance the fact that no one knows you and that you don't have any brand recognition, and then on the other hand, you would like to find really a very, very good candidate?
Can I start, Nicolas? Or?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I've been working also as a consultant in international development, and I've been helping to launch companies in, I think, about 30 countries. And what really works is what you can call a company launcher. It takes somebody from your office, if you're a French company, from your office in France that is very international, and send him, if it is to start in Germany, in order to start with the first, I would say, business contacts and business development, and also get a feeling. So don't ask somebody to do a market search and give you some statistics. Send somebody on the ground really to get a feeling. And there you have to send somebody that is open to somebody who gets introduced to the right network. And when you start getting perhaps 1 or 2 contracts or good contacts, because some contracts are very long, I think that is a good moment to start. But desk studies for me is a little bit bad. Go on the ground and learn, and then you can start recruiting.
Yeah, I agree with Thomas. I would add that, I mean, from my point of view, there's no bad moment, but there's some bad preparation. Meaning if you are well prepared, you don't have, of course, to have an established business in Germany, but if with clear client names, with transparent information about how is running your business in France, you can, and with a clear business plan. What is our goal? Most of the time I have a question from candidates saying, but what is a plan? Because German like a plan, okay? And of course, the plan has to be as realistic as possible and not too much ambition, but but they need a plan, okay? And as soon as you have a clear plan, a clear marketing materials, a clear communication tools, you can do it.
Okay, thank you. This is really insightful. So to do the good preparation and to wait for the good moment to interest the right profiles also on the other market. And then another question that I would have is, how long does it take to find this person? If I start my search now, I mean, it always depends, of course, on holiday seasons, but what do you think, what is like the medium time frame that I have to count in if I say I want to start my German operations in 2022? How much time do I have to step back to count in for the recruitment?
Of course, depending on how fast you are to interview candidate, but I would say between 3 and 4 months. To make a professional, not too long recruitment process. If it's longer than that, it can be dangerous because, of course, in recruitment also time kills deals. Okay, so you have to be clear about interview process from the beginning. For example, how much people will have to interview the candidate. Sometimes mistakes startups are doing is that as it's a key position, candidates have to meet 6 people. It's from my point of view too much. Okay, but I would say between 3 and 4 months. Thomas, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree on that. And then you have to take into account also the contract that the person has. Sometimes in France, I mean, it can take 3 months only when that person has signed to be available, that can be negotiated. But that has to be taken into consideration too. Yeah.
Mm. And maybe one question from my side is, how do you ensure, because what I always hear and what I see also in many companies is that the first recruitment is really crucial, and because it basically sets the stage for your international team in the other country. And how do you ensure that once the candidate is onboarded, the stickiness is given so that the person also stays in the team? Because when we work with companies, then sometimes I feel like a psychological hotline, you know, the country managers calling and say, okay, is it me? Is it the culture? What's the problem? So how do you ensure that the people really stay and that it's really a long-lasting recruitment, a sustainable recruitment?
I think there is often a lack of experience, especially when it's the first, second country you get into. A lack of experience on how you handle this. Don't forget that you have to be as present with the local manager or the local team as you are with your team here. So you have to travel there, you have to make them come, you have to include them in the company culture. And that's why a country launcher is good also in the beginning. It's not only to start the business, it's also to help to implement the culture of the company locally. But this is an extremely important point, I think.
That's, yeah, one very good tip. Another tip is that if you have the looks to do it, that as a founder of the company, if your company is not so big, I recommend, and we have a few examples among our clients, that the founder came himself to live in the country. Okay? You have a well-known company with its Malt. The founder of Malt is now living in Munich because he wants himself to really understand what is the German culture. Okay, which is a key. I remember another client who was always complaining, yeah, Nicolas, the candidate level is so bad regarding France, you know, and he was a typical ESSEC founder, Grandes Écoles guy, but he didn't really knew the German culture. Okay, and he came here 3 years and then now he's back in France, but he understands that the country is different, with pros and cons, but it's different, and you have to accept it. Okay, and you have to adapt yourself. And as I say, Thomas, you have to adapt your company culture to the country culture, which is the key.
No, it's true. And a very good example of what you're saying, Nicolas, is the one perhaps the mostly known is the USA market. That is a huge and very complex market. And that there it is perhaps more common than on the two big European markets that one of the founders goes there and establishes there in order to start the company. But it's a very good point.
And maybe just one last question from my side would be maybe what are the three most common mistakes that you see from companies trying to recruit like the first person on the ground, and really the three errors that you should not, maybe 2 or 3, or what you have on your mind, what people really need to know before starting this recruitment process?
I mean, trying to make a copy paste, okay, and not working with local German, from my point of view, from my experience, German, you know, trying to get the candidate market experience, which is a key. Okay.
I would add on that one, don't underestimate, it has been said by Nicolas, but don't underestimate the effort that it will take you to launch in a country. And a common mistake is companies launching in 3 countries at the same time, and they don't have the resources to support that. So don't underestimate the effort.
Well, thank you. Those were my questions. If anyone else has a question, please unmute and go. If not, maybe we can have some of the best practices. That would be interesting. The country launcher is, I think, a very good idea.
So yeah, country launcher was Thomas spoke about that, which is key. But I think the role of the country launcher has also to be communicate to everybody that the guy is there on an interim phase, and to explain what is his role. Okay. Well, typical mistake you asked that, Andrea, it's no clear interview process, which stakeholder the candidate will have to meet. This is really something key, that the candidate have a clear overview before starting the process, how long it will take. What we see most of the time now is that for all startups, scale-up, you have the last interview, the panel interview, meaning that the candidate have to prepare a presentation about his business plan, his view on the business, which make a big difference. You see with this panel interview, you first of all push the candidate to take time to prepare something, but you also see in terms of communication a lot of things. Okay. We spoke before about talent acquisition. HR marketing is a key asset that startup and scale-up has to develop. You saw in my presentation before, we spoke about Glassdoor. You all know Glassdoor. The Germans are not using Glassdoor, they use Kununu. I can tell you that with each candidate we are speaking, first, what they do, they go kununu, and they look at how the company is valued in kununu. Of course, if the company is not established in Germany, you don't have any kununu, but it is key to have that. So the candidate experience, okay, treating the candidate properly, making sure that the recruitment process is a smooth, professional process is a key, okay?
If I can add on that one, because especially when the market is really booming as it is now, when you wait 3 weeks in order to book the next meeting with the candidate, it's not okay. It's not okay. You can lose them. So you have to be reactive. So the candidate experience is really how reactive are you? How fast are you in this process? How do you communicate even if you don't take the person? It's extremely important. It's your branding.
Okay, speaking about how can you make sure that the recruitment is the right one? So you have, of course, it's the market and proposed by recruitment agency assessment tools, and these tools are key to make sure that the personality of the candidate is a fit with the culture of the company. Make also sure that the recruitment agency with which you are working with will do a reputation check, so reference check. Okay. We have in Germany the Zeugnisse. Zeugnisse is the work certificate, which is, honestly speaking, not really representative. So we prefer to do reference check. Offer management has also to be conducted correctly. Basic things that if the candidate is asking for a certain salary level, if you start to make him an offer at a lower salary level, you don't take him seriously. And then you break already the trust with the candidate, which seems basic, but we still see every day this kind of issue. Okay. And last, as Thomas said, that time is key. So this is the main issue. Doesn't mean that we have to go too fast, because both sides has to think to make sure that it's the right fit, but it has to be smoothly conducted. And what is ideal is that when we can, from the beginning, first contact with the candidate, telling him what and how long will be the recruitment process. Then he can, because of course, each candidate we are speaking with are running different recruitment process. So if they know the time they will have to spend in a recruitment process, if they know, because most of the time they have a time frame and they say, okay, in 2 months, I would like to ideally find a new job. So if they know that, they can really manage expectations, which is also key. So, I mean, transparency, trust, visibility in the offer management recruitment process is a key.
I also can say, because this with doubts, as you said, Nicolas, when you have too many doubts, don't go for it, and that's really true. But sometimes in startups or even in other companies, you can have doubts because the persons involved in the recruitment process don't have exactly the same idea of the role. Then you can even make an assessment between, if you have 3 key persons who are in the recruitment process, you can make an assessment on the role in order to get them, and that's a work, in order to get them to agree on this role, so that you can lower the doubt or the chance of being in a doubt situation.
Well, again, Nicolas, Thomas, I think for me, even though I did some recruitment in my past, also, I'm not doing it anymore, but I learned a lot today in this session. So thank you very much. We will give this masterclass also as available as a replay on YouTube, and we'll promote it also in this way, because I think that there are very many points that you have mentioned that are very true, and we still see so many companies, you know, not doing it the right way. And so we are always, I'm always telling them that they should work with professional recruiters, because it's just so much, you take away a lot of risk working with professionals, and that can really guide you through this process. And the first person is so critical, because I don't know if you agree on that, but I always try to say to the companies that if they don't find the right person, they lose about 1 year of work, because the time that you find out that it's not the right person is about 3 months, 6 months, maybe 9 months, and then you have to start the recruitment process all over again. So sometimes they say, yeah, but it's so expensive, and all of this money to the recruiter. And I said, well, just think about what you would lose if you would lose 1 year of market expansion and potentially turnover and projects. So I think this is why this is really key, and the recruitment is just a key element of the international development. So thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
And I would be
Germany.
Sorry?
And good luck to the Mannschaft.
Yes, good luck to the Mannschaft tonight. And thank you very much for your time. And I'm really looking forward to doing this kind of session again, if you agree, maybe at the end of the year, because I think it's really very, very interesting. So thank you very much for taking the time for us and preparing this for the European Champions Alliance.
You're welcome. Have a nice evening.
Thanks a
You
lot.
too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.